CNF Worldwide for nomads everywhere.
We're live, CNF on the road, coming to you from beautiful Halifax, Nova Scotia, where we're here to enjoy the multitude of beers at the Halifax Seaport Cider and Beer Fest. And we're here with Bruce Mansour, one of the founders.
Hey, Rick.
You and Brian Titus.
That's it.
Kick this thing off, and we'll give a shout out to Brian. Brian runs Garrison Brewing, literally a couple hundred yards from here.
That's it.
And I
Stone's throw.
sampled his beers yesterday.
Yeah.
And you know, before we get to your interview, I'm not a big sour guy, but your guy Riley over there, Brian, Riley says, Rick, you got to try these two sours. And I'm going to tell you, they're way above average. Excellent beers. So anyway, Bruce, take us all the way back before there was the Seaport Beer Festival and tell us, how did you get involved in the beer industry to begin with?
Well, about 20 years ago, I started my own company called Make It Happen, and we do a lot of event planning. Mm-hmm. And one of the events we ran was up on Cider Hill, which is a beautiful fortress, not far from here as well. And Brian Titus from Garrison Brewing was the sponsor of the beer for that event. And we're just sitting around, and I said, how come there's not a beer festival? Just out of the blue. I'd never won one, just curious about it. He said, well, some guys from, upstate Canada came down and tried to do it their way, and it didn't work. So I said, well, why don't we do it together? Why don't we try? He picked up the phone the next day and just called the top 10 or 15 brewers we knew, and they said, sure, yeah, we'd be interested in that.
Yeah. So step back for a second.
Yeah.
Make It Happen.
Yeah.
What a great name for an entrepreneurial venture.
Yeah.
Why'd you pick that?
That's a good question. I picked it because at the time I was working for Cadbury Chocolate. We had launched a really interesting product called Time Out, which I absolutely loved, the market loved. But then we ran out all the funding for different things we promised to all of our distributors, the grocery and food trade. And I said, well, how did that happen? I was thinking about the ethos of the problem. They said, well, the same thing happened in the UK and the same thing happened in Australia. And I was like, hang on now, you're Cadbury Chocolate. You can't figure this out from country to country? That's it, I'm out of here. I want to work for a company that makes it happen. So I made it.
So then back on the beer track for a second. So you met Brian at this festival? Why don't we have a beer festival here in Halifax, Nova Scotia?
That's it.
So let's try to make it happen. So what year was that?
That was 2007.
So 2007, you guys put your heads together, and how'd you go about planning that first festival?
Well, like any kind of festival, the main thing is content. So you've got to have the brewers in the room. So the first thing was to get on the phone. We picked a date we thought would work, talked to a few of the locals, and they said, yeah, we're in. So we had a date. The venue was going to be the street right across from where Garrison Brewing happens to be, and it's in a seaport. And for obvious reasons, this is pretty fantastic.
It's gorgeous.
So we had the location, we picked a date, and then basically just rallied the troops. And once you had the critical mass, you get it out to the media, and thankfully 1,500 people showed up the first year, and we called it a success. I think we all broke even.
So somebody who's run festivals, including beer festivals, when you're running your first one, and you got the brewers lined up, and you've never done this before. Yeah. Tell people how nerve-wracking it is as you're waiting and you're getting closer to the first day, and you haven't sold a ton of tickets. What's that feel like? You're coming up to a week before and going, man, I hope some people show up.
Well, Rick, the sad news is that's not changed. We're year 13, and still you wait out there. We sold probably 2,500, 3,000 tickets the week before this one. Well, actually, for over 4 months. And then in the last week, you sell just as many.
Right.
So, very much the way the festivals work, it's a walk-up kind of decision on the day. Depends on the weather.
Right.
So the first, like making craft beer, the first thing is you got to love what you do. Right. And if you love what you do, then if 3,000 people show up or 5,000, you want to show them as good a time as if there's 1 million.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's really important to us. And at the same time, while I had started Make It Happen, I was a volunteer in the community for 20 years running events as well. So I started a couple of golf tournaments. So I had the understanding of how important it is to try to deliver on every aspect of the event.
Right.
It's no different than throwing a party in your house. You want to make sure when people show up, there's a place to park, the door's open, there's a place to hang your jacket, the food's ready, and you just walk in and just have a great experience. You don't see someone going mad in the kitchen and having to park 4 blocks away. So it's just all about those little details. And if you're there yourself, what would you want to have?
Right.
Cozy furniture and great selection of beer. That's just obvious.
Yeah.
But for me, and I've said this for a long time actually. And it's been a long time since I said it, so I'm not sure I can remember all of it. But as long as you have cold beer and short lineups for washrooms, you're sorted.
You're good. And you mentioned that you want to have cozy places. You guys have got this outdoor area here with the Adirondack chairs and the cornhole stuff. And then you got a whole variety of ambiances inside.
That's it.
And you've got, I'll let you answer this question. So back to the beer.
Yeah.
So lots of cool space in here, lots of places to hang out with your friends. Even if there are thousands of people here today, you are not going to feel crowded. There's plenty of space.
No.
But you tell us about the beers you have here. You've got a lot of Canadian beers. You got beers from other countries. What will people expect to be able to drink when they arrive?
Well, it's been a big evolution since 2007, 13 years ago. We had mostly local beers, of which there weren't as many back then. So then you had to have a lot of specialty craft and import. Now we've evolved. The local scene is up to 60 brewers in Nova Scotia for a population of 1 million. And thankfully, about half of those brewers are here with us. Okay. So it's 55% local content, and that also includes provinces from New Brunswick and PEI. So a nice selection of those guys. But then as we travel the world, and been at this a while, we're all meeting folks. But right from the very beginning, we happened to latch on to Maine, and we love the Maine. We were traveling back and forth there, so we invited some brewers up in the early years to be a part of the festival. And that's evolved to this year to the Maine Beer Box, which itself has 78 beer taps with over 80 beers involved. So we have 350 beers and ciders, of which Maine is now a third.
Yeah. Listen, people, 78 beer taps on a semi-rig. Consider the possibilities.
That's it. That's it.
The Mainers did, and we thanked them for it.
That's it. That's it.
So, excuse me, you got the Main Beer Box outside. You got all these beers inside.
Yeah.
And you've got an Ireland section in here where you've got a half dozen or so.
Well, again, I was coming back to the travel. I now live in Dublin, Ireland. We run some festivals over there. So I was in Iceland a couple of years ago when the Main Beer Box dropped there, and all the Icelandic brewers came out for that. So we've stayed in touch. I've been there a couple of times now and invited them to come over here. So we have a few of the Icelandic brewers. We have what we call an Icelandic pavilion. We have a Maine pavilion. We have a Irish pavilion because I now live in Dublin, and we bring everywhere we go. We try to develop some relationships, and so here, in addition to the local, you get these interesting international beers, and then so overall for the festival of the 350 beers and ciders, only half of that is available in the local stores. So when you come here, you get a really broad experience.
Nice, unique experience stuff too.
While
we're on the international aspect in Ireland, we got to give a shout out our friends Rick and Libby at Kinnegar Brewing up there in Letterkenny. Thanks for the hospitality. Bruce, we'll see you soon. I'll see you next year. Count on it.
Absolutely.
So this year's a big year because not only did you bring in the Main Beer Box and all their beers, but now it's the Halifax Seaport Cider and Beer Fest. So you've expanded the content a little bit.
Year after year it grew, and it only made sense to recognize it in the logo and the brand, and I'd say about a third of our offering is cider this year.
So you got ciders in there. I saw some meaderies. I mean, so there's a wide variety of types of beverages to drink here.
Well, that's it. And the more people produce interesting things, the more they kind of reach out to us, and we're happy to include them because inclusivity is what we're all about. We're trying to create a rising tide for everyone. Yeah.
So from that first year and your 1,500 people and the local brewers and everything, what kind of turnout are you guys expecting this year?
We do about 5,500 people a year. It's over 3 sessions. So needless to say, Saturday night is always going to be busier than Friday night. But oddly enough, we've added a VIP session for each of those now where you can come an hour early and have a more broader time with less people around. And Saturday afternoon is the most popular time for VIP. But 3 sessions, 5,500 people.
Okay, so now anybody who happens to see the clip that I'll post here just in an hour from now, today, tell them where you're located at with the festival, the times, and all that kind of stuff.
We are in Halifax, Nova Scotia, down at the Seaport Market. The festival is on today, the 10th of August. We go off with our first session in the afternoon. The VIP kicks off at 1 o'clock, regular session at 2. We run for 2.5 hours. We'd love to have people be happy, but not, too happy. And then we've got the evening session that we've got a VIP session there, kicks off at 6, and the regular session at 7.
Now, stepping out a little bit farther beyond this beer fest, you're also involved with some beer festivals over in Ireland.
I am. I have the good fortune. My business partner and I, Seamus O'Hara. Seamus owns Carlow Brewing, and we've got the pioneers, as we say, of craft brewing. And they tell me the definition of that is you have the arrows in your back.
I'm a tech guy. We used to call it living on the bleeding edge of technology.
Exactly. Yeah, as I said earlier, you got to be committed to craft. At some point, you may have to drink and eat the beer. It might be all you have. But it's a great scene over there. The guys are fantastic, much like what you'd witness here in Halifax and all throughout the province. So we have a festival actually coming up in September 5th, 6th, and 7th. It'll be what we're calling the Dublin Beer Circus. Got a big circus tent that we put up, and the lions are a little difficult to control when you get them in there walking around, but keeps the patrons honest. And we're fortunate enough
to have... Seamus dress up like Siegfried and Roy for that show? Or?
Normally we just play ping pong and try to, entertain the crowd that way, but it's probably going to come to that. I wouldn't mind it. We just try to make it interesting, and there's a load of festivals now, so we thought because we had a circus tent, why not create kind of a circus environment? So you have jugglers and magicians and all these other things, because we're there to entertain. If you come out to any beer festival, the beer, the food, they're all important elements. I know you use art in your festivals. which I highly admire. And yeah, so it's a little bit of the circus act. And even one of the guys from Maine is going to go over and join us, Lone Pine Brewing, Tom.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and his group.
So now as for Canada, huge country.
Mm.
You got 60 breweries right here in Nova Scotia.
Yeah.
How is the craft beer industry? What's the status in Canada? How's it growing here?
Yeah, it's really vibrant. I'm more on the festival side, but I can regurgitate some of the things I've heard Brian say and listen to. No, they're really excited. It's very vibrant here. Market share is about 9%. Nice. And the Nova Scotia Liquor Corporation really focuses on local, and that's really helped to develop it. And they have lots of liberal opportunities through their own tap rooms, growlers for takeaway, sampling. So it's a really open market here for the craft brewers that are based in Nova Scotia, and they're flourishing, which is great to see.
It's fantastic. Now, as far as like back to your personal stuff here, your business, like Make It Happen. We talked off camera. You done a lot of charity work over the years, a lot of benefits and that kind of thing. Are you using any of your craft beer festivals as like fundraisers for local charities or things like that?
Yeah. Because of that charitable background, we've always kept that kind of ethos. So for here, it's the prostate cancer and Adsum House.
Yep.
So we raise a little over $5,000 usually every year.
Nice.
So it's over 50 grand year to date. And for me, the more you give, the more you get. So
yeah, I shot a little clip with the prostate cancer guys. I said I told them I would put it online for them.
Sweet, yeah.
Because you've seen some of our stuff online.
Yeah.
And CNFLTD.com. We don't really come at our publishing from what I'll call the hop head. Hey, I want to analyze every beer and break down the malts and hops, and if it tastes good to you, drink it. That's all I get to tell you. We're from more of a social aspect, and we found that craft brewing is doing a lot of good in small towns and cities everywhere. And the people like you are running festivals like this. And you're not just saying, hey, let's drink beer. You're raising money for local charities.
That's it.
And we recently were at a happy hour for a local brewery in Maryland where the comptroller of that state came.
Yeah.
And he's, people should know this, that every locally brewed beer puts 3 times as much money into the economy of that state as buying you like a big box generic brand that's brewed somewhere else.
That's it.
So you're really helping the local economy, and it spills over into the people that help build out the buildings and do the graphic arts for the tap handles, and there's just so many jobs created off of this, not to mention farmers and
you're
that kind of
exactly
stuff.
right.
Yeah.
And it's great to see because they bring such vibrancy to the communities, and often they've come out of an area that's maybe been depressed or repressed.
Exactly.
And so you inject that into the community, and the spirit can almost turn on a dime. Yeah.
It's awesome. We'd thank all the brewers for what they're doing.
Yeah, amen.
Bruce and Brian for putting on this beautiful festival. Here we are, August 10th, 2019. We're at the Halifax Seaport. Come on out here this afternoon. You got a session at 2, another one at 7. VIP starts at 1 and 6.
Yeah.
See Bruce and Brian, but actually all you'll see them is running all over the place. They're taking care of details. You'll have a great time. Bruce, we thank you for your time.
Rick, you're a gent.
And we'll see you again next year, man.
Please do, every year.
All right, man. Halifax Seaport Cider and Beer Fest, CNF Worldwide on the road. See you next time, everybody.
CNF Worldwide for nomads everywhere.
This broadcast was produced by CNF Limited for nomads everywhere. The contents of this broadcast are the property of CNF Limited. All rights are reserved. For more information about CNF publications, contact us at 305-707-4024. Find us on the web at cnfltd.com.